All right, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for everyone showing up today. We got a very full house. This is very exciting. And basically, what I'm here to talk about is faster, cheaper, and more reliable transactions with Alchemy. So this is very exciting. But before I go into this, I want to introduce myself real quick. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. I'm Albert. I'm a developer advocate at Alchemy. And what that means is I make a lot of educational content. I give talks like this. And I basically want to help people get into the Web3 developer ecosystem so that we can build really great products for users in the industry. And if you want to follow me, I'm that guy in tech on Twitter. And I have a cool crypto rap on my Twitter account that's pinned at the top. So shameless plug, check that out. Awesome. So before I get into the actual transactions part of my talk, I want to give an overview of Alchemy as well. So yeah, next slide, please. Alchemy is basically the easiest way to build and scale your Web3 decentralized applications. So you can see here on the bottom, we support whatever chains there are developer activity on. So Astar has been a recent addition. We're super excited to enter the Polkadot ecosystem and support all the app chains in Polkadot, on Polkadot. But we support all different kinds of use cases as well. You can see NFTs, DeFi, wallets, gaming, infra and tooling, as well as Web2 Fortune 500 companies. Basically, whenever they want to have some kind of business use case built out, they need developer tools, they need a developer platform, and we want to provide all of that in a seamless, easy to use way so that you don't have to build out a giant engineering team to kind of do it yourself. Awesome. Oh, next slide, please. So yeah, just to go into a little bit more of like where we exist in our stack. Welcome, welcome. So, you know, the way we like to think about it is that in the past 50 years, there have been three huge technological shifts. First, we had the personal computer on the left, and then we had the internet, and then right now we're going through this phase of blockchain as like a really, really big technological shift. And in each technological shift, in order for the technology to actually reach a point where it's useful and has users and impacts the world, you have to get to a point where you're building really cool applications that everybody can use. And so in the early days of the personal computer, you know, really it was the innovation of all the different hardware and, you know, things that go into a computer that made it possible. But we have companies like Microsoft and Apple that were creating operating systems and making it super easy for developers to then come in and build applications like the browser or spreadsheets and calculators, things like that. And then in the internet phase, we see the very same thing. We have these new technologies that are protocols, ways to talk to each other around the world, HTTP, FTP, SMTP. And in order for those to actually be used to the maximum capability so that we can have applications like Netflix and Uber and Pinterest and Instagram, these kinds of things, we needed platforms like AWS to make it easy, once again, for developers to actually build so that you don't have to worry about this low-level protocol stuff. So in the blockchain world, we're seeing the same thing with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, Astar. It's really awesome to have these protocols, these new ways to transact value between machines on the internet around the world. But also we need it to be super easy for developers to receive data, get data off the blockchain, and then also send transactions to the blockchain and have these APIs, these platforms. And so Alchemy exists to provide those capabilities so that now we can have decentralized exchanges, NFTs, decentralized finance, all of this kind of stuff. So that's kind of the role we play. Next slide, please. Awesome. And just to drive it home, you know, the analogy we like to use is if you have, you know, some stone picks and simple tools, you can build, you know, a shelter, something that works. But next slide, please. If you have really awesome tools like tractors and construction equipment, then you can build really amazing skyscrapers. And so that's what Alchemy exists to do. We want to build all the tools that you would need to create the beautiful metropolises that we hope to see in the future. So what products have we actually built? What are these tools? On the right here, you see all the chains that we currently support: Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, Arbitrum, Optimism, Astar, Starknet. And over here on the left is the product suite. So our bread and butter is Supernode. This is basically your gateway to the blockchain. So any data that you want from the blockchain or any data that you want to send to the blockchain, you're going to be using Supernode. We have NFT API. That was something that came out this year because there's been so much NFT activity. So we wanted to have a specialized NFT API that helps you get all the indexed information that you might want to care about. And then we have a lot of other tools as well: SDK, transactions, notify, enhanced APIs, monitor, build, and amplify. And amplify is a fun one because we even help you co-market your project. So if you're building on top of Alchemy, we want you to succeed because when you succeed, we succeed. So we definitely include you in our newsletters, our Twitter community, our Discord, this kind of stuff. But what I wanted to talk about today is the Transact suite of tools. So next slide, please. Yeah, so that's this one. We just launched this very recently. We're starting this out on the EVM ecosystem, but we would like to expand this depending on how different ecosystems evolve and things like that. But the key value proposition of the transaction product suite today is that it allows you to send transactions 7.9 times faster and with a 100% success rate. So that's what I want to talk about. Awesome. Yeah, we can just skip this one. And so before I go into the specific APIs and functionalities you can get in this product suite, I kind of want to talk through how we think about transactions, especially coming from the EVM world. So there's kind of different phases. You start with the create phase where you're kind of putting together a transaction and you're composing it. And at this stage, you might care about how much a transaction might cost. You might care about budgeting for that over time, depending on how many transactions you're making, what ecosystem you're in. And then you might want to simulate your transaction. And this is both useful for businesses as well as end users because you want to know, if I go through with this transaction, am I going to drain my wallet because someone's trying to phish me? Or is it going to mint my NFT or allow me to do this interaction in a game? So we're looking into providing that as well. And then we have reinforced transactions and private transactions and the send phase. So this is when you're actually executing on a transaction. You actually want it to be included in history on the blockchain. We can provide functionality to make sure that you do that successfully and that you don't get front run because blockchains are public. And I'll be talking about that in a second. And then finally, monitor is really useful too for when you've actually sent the transaction to the blockchain to get included. And you want to check, has it been included? When has it been actually mined? What's going on with the state of the world? We can actually notify you about things that you care about without you having to ask the blockchain. So next slide, please. I'm going to be talking about these last three. These are endpoints, APIs, services that we have available today. And then we are slowly working on including the other three as well. So first, we have the reinforced transactions. And yeah, next slide, please. So a couple of examples, just to set the mood here. Bored Ape Yacht Club, this is a pretty famous NFT collection. Today, the floor price of the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection is about 69 ETH. So floor price being like the cheapest price that you can pay for one of these. These minted out in early 2021. And so, you know, this is one of the cases where if you weren't able to get in on a mint, then you're missing out on something potentially significant. Next slide, please. And then also MEV has been a big topic, especially within the Ethereum ecosystem. You know, the largest single MEV transaction ever happened this year, kind of recently actually. And the profit that was earned from that MEV transaction, which stands for maximal extractable value or minor extractable value, depending on which time of the year it was about $3.3 million. So pretty huge. And if you weren't able to kind of get your transaction in at the right time, again, you're missing out on something of this magnitude. Next slide, please. And then also, this is something that happens, you know, pretty often, especially on DeFi use cases. There's this concept of slippage in liquidity pools. So depending on how quickly you can get your transaction in or out for a certain token swap, for example, swapping Ethereum into Uniswap token, you might be charged a slippage fee up to like 0.5%, for example. And that would sum to a total of about under $3,000. So with Alchemy Transact, this is the idea for our reinforced transactions is to really make sure that you can get your transactions in as soon as possible, as successful as possible, so that you don't run into these scenarios where you're missing out on those opportunities. You get 0 drop transactions and you get 7.9 times faster. So at a high level, Alchemy Transact basically babysits and nurtures your transactions. What we do is we go to the entire network of nodes and we say, hey, accept this transaction, please. And we make sure to do that very proactively with as many nodes as possible. And that's what provides that additional speed. Also, we will actually wait for the transactions to complete. And if they don't complete, we'll keep trying. So this is something we do on your behalf. And that's how we're able to get these kinds of results with 100% mine rate and 7.9 times faster speed. And the demo here is super simple. All you have to do is once you have an Alchemy application, you go into your dashboard. This is just essentially the edit your application settings panel. You open that up, and then down here, there's this checkbox. And then all you have to do is check it and save your app. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, next slide will show that. And then you save it, and then you'll feel really good like that. This was me at ETH Denver earlier this year. So yeah, that was reinforced transactions. So once again, reinforced basically, helps you get your transactions through. So the next thing I want to talk about is private transactions. This is a really interesting concept too. Basically allows you to prevent front running by keeping your transactions private from the public mempool system. So an example use case here is, I found out about this when I was researching a little bit about MEV and also private transactions. Basically, this anon Twitter account bought 104 Floor CryptoPunks, which is another very famous NFT collection. Spent about $7 million on it, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, just from looking at that headline. But next slide, please. This person, Ivan Bogati, they work on a project called Mining DAO, which helps with some of these kinds of like transactions to minimize the cost. But he says when you plan to purchase 100 NFTs, raising the price floor can be the difference between spending $6 million and $60 million. And so what he's talking about here is if you're making a certain transaction for something that's very expensive and a limited quantity, you make one transaction at a time. Maybe the first one costs 200,000. The second one costs 200,000. People start noticing that because all the transactions are public on this blockchain. And so there will be bots. There will be people who are like looking at all these things who care about CryptoPunks, for example. And they would say, okay, someone is buying these really fast. I should buy them right now so that I can get in early. And then that ends up inflating the price because everyone else starts joining in. So yeah, next slide, please. The problem is that these the nodes in any blockchain are in this network, and because all the transactions are being broadcasted before they're actually even mined and solidified into the history, there are people who can kind of watch what's going on and seeing like all these bids for transactions coming in and say, I'm going to front run them. I'm actually going to like buy that punk before you're even able to buy it. So that's another part of another illustration of this example. So what we've done here is we've partnered with this research group called Flashbots. They're actually, their whole purpose is to make sure that any kind of MEV that's happening in this ecosystem is not overly abused. And so they provide, what they've actually done technically is they've forked one of the Ethereum clients, for example, and have made it so that you can actually submit private transactions directly to miners instead of going to the public mempool. So what we've been able to create with their help is these three example API endpoints. So you can send a private transaction, you can cancel a private transaction in case it hasn't been mined yet, and then you can also wait for a transaction to happen in your code before doing something else. So yeah, just to be explicit, a private transaction is sent as a single transaction directly to miners in a proof of work world or validators in proof of stake world through Flashbots to then bypass the public mempool. And here's a kind of really quick code demo. It's pretty easy. Under 30 lines of code, you can start using this and buying CryptoPunks if that's what you want to do. So the first couple of lines really just install the Alchemy SDK. And this is actually available on Astar as well, which is really exciting. But yeah, you install the SDK, you configure some settings. And then down here, you set your Alchemy API key. You can replace with the Astar Network or whatever network that we're currently supporting. And then connect your wallet. And then down here, you compose the actual transaction. So this is completely replaceable with whatever transaction you want to keep private, whether that is sending a small amount of Ether or buying 100 floor CryptoPunks. And then finally, you actually just sign the transaction and send it. And you can see that API call on the very bottom here, send private transaction. And that's pretty much it. It's as easy as that. And then, yeah, here you can see that in the transaction part, you can replace it with whatever logic that you want to keep private, and it should work. One cool thing is that OpenSea has actually been using the private transactions API so that they can, send a lot of these transactions where people are buying and selling NFTs in a safe way, so that other ecosystem attackers are not front running OpenSea. So it's really cool to get the validation of like this kind of use case. Awesome. And so the final product suite or part of the product suite in the Transact product suite that I want to talk about is the Notify API. So basically with Notify, we will actually send push notifications to you so that you can monitor address activity or transactions that are going through. This is historically pretty hard. Actually, I'll go through it in the next slide. Here's an example. Rainbow Wallet, which is a very popular wallet on Ethereum, it has notifications that are now live. So basically, it's the value prop for users is that it's fast. You can know what happens the instant that your transaction actually gets through. It's very simple. So it supports like all of these different types of transactions, but they're super easy to read on your phone. And then you can see everything that's happening to your wallet so that you don't miss anything. This is what it looks like. So you can see a big headline. You swapped some tokens, you received some tokens, you sold an NFT, whatever it is. And the problem with how you might implement this on your own is that you would actually have to look at the entire history of the blockchain, whatever blockchain it is, and see that this wallet sent money to this wallet interacted with this contract, and all of these kinds of things. And you'd have to remember all of them, and then you'd have to index them in a database so that you can then search them whenever you actually need that information. So number one, that's a huge amount of work. Or if you don't do that, you have to pull every single block of the blockchain as they're coming out. So every second, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it is for the cadence of the blockchain, you'd actually have to keep watching and then ask like, okay, did Albert finish interacting with the CryptoPunks contract yet or not? And then that's also a huge amount of work. So yeah, we do that for you. We're already, interacting with all of these nodes. We have these APIs already built out. And so we said, okay, why don't we just supply that for you so that you don't have to do that work. So it's super easy to actually set up. This is an example view on our dashboard. So you go to the settings and then you go to the notify section. All you have to do is create a webhook. We have different examples of webhooks. So we have NFT activity, address activity. There's also gas fees, different kinds of basically categories of transactions you might care about. And then all you do is you click create webhook and it should pop up a modal. And you just fill in the information. So you can select whatever chain you want, including Astar. And then you should be able to include a test webhook server that you want to receive the notifications at. And then also which addresses you actually care about watching. And then you just click create webhook and then you're good to go. This is an alternative example in your code. So if you want it to be a little bit more flexible with how you react to the information that's coming in, maybe we give you all the basic information about the transaction, like what the recipients, the sender and the recipient, who it was, and also what contract was involved, things like that. But maybe you want to add some more information that you have from your application. You can do that in your code. And so that's what it looks like. Again, in under 30 lines of code, you can kind of set up your webhook server, what types of transactions you want to follow, and then also which app it is that you care about. So yeah, I just wanted to wrap this up by saying we're super excited to also be supporting the Astar ecosystem. I'm a little bit newer to the ecosystem, but I'm starting to build in it myself, and really excited to explore some of the use cases here. I know gaming is a big thing that's been popping up, but yeah, I've been working with Soda on the Astar team, and super excited to help the community expand. So yeah, Alchemy empowers builders to bring the magic of blockchain to the world. That's what we're super excited to do. We want to provide all the tooling, the ecosystem help, the networking that can help people build useful applications in the space. And this is our team. We're super happy to support everyone, talk to everyone. We're very friendly, based in San Francisco. So definitely reach out, say hi. We're happy to help with anything that you might have on your mind or at your business. Awesome. That's it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. Happy to take questions if there are any questions. Yeah. Multi-planetary. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. So yeah, the question / comment was creating multi-planetary transactions. So, and that would cause the problem of like a huge delay because it takes a while for the information to. Yeah, that would be wild. We should definitely talk because maybe we can help with some of that. Yeah. Did you have like a question? I guess. Yeah. What would we do? Um, I mean, under the Flashbots model, which is currently what we're working with, is Flashbots like essentially creates this network that like makes it, and they forked at the technological level with the Ethereum client, but we can apply this model to other clients potentially, of like just sending the transaction directly to the miner who's going to be mining it. And so it's kind of like, to me, it feels like a special deal where it's like, okay, we're not going to broadcast this in like a super decentralized way to the point where it can be attacked. And then, but we'll get that security and we'll be able to make sure that, you know, we can execute a batch of transactions quickly. So in the interplanetary model, I think that could be a starting point still. You know, it would take 20 minutes or whatever it is to actually broadcast it to a different planet. But if you're willing to kind of take the trade-off of like, I'm going to wait for this one or wait for this transaction to go into this private network of miners, then, you know, that way you can still kind of keep it. It's kind of like, it's less private. It's more of like these miners agree to kind of follow this standard because, yeah. Yeah, so Flashbots essentially has built it so that that's people who you can opt in. So if you're a miner or validator or whatever, you can be like, I want to help. I want the business of these people who are doing this, and so I'm willing to execute these transactions in this manner. Yeah, great question though. That's an interesting idea as well. Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, another question. Yeah. So the question was, what tools or libraries are used the most? Yeah, so I would say like the Alchemy SDK that I showed in a lot of the code snippets, those are probably the most applicable to a lot of like full stack developers who are building the web applications that need like JavaScript. So that makes it super easy because we wrap all of our APIs, all of our JSON RPC requests to all of the blockchains. And so, yeah, it kind of like allows you to integrate without writing a lot of boilerplate yourself. I would say like out of the actual services that we provide, Supernode is definitely it's the bread and butter. That's what you need to actually interact with the blockchain, read and write data. And then beyond that, it kind of just depends on the use case, like what you're exploring the most.